Hello, and welcome to our Podia Pro Lead Magnet Review series. Today, I'm joined by Podia Pro educator Glen Long. Glen is a course creation teacher and mentor who runs the program Build Your Best Course, which gives people a paint-by-numbers process for building courses that students love. Fun fact, he was also once a comedy writer for the BBC and still loves creating content that entertains while it educates. Glen, thank you so much for joining us today.
No, not at all, Ben. I'm really looking forward to it. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, we're really excited to have you, and we were just talking a little bit about your journey into using Podia, and so if anyone can speak to lead magnets and how they work in Podia and how to use the Podia tool to really make those stand out, it's definitely you. I was excited to learn some of your story. Do you want to share real quick, I guess, just in a few sentences or a few paragraphs, what your journey into Podia has been like and what it's meant for the people you educate and serve?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my course background started about 10 years ago. I worked for a guy called John Morrow who runs a big writing and copywriting blog and content marketing blog called Smart Blogger, and really kind of went from the ground up to the top with John in the sense of started off as like a part-time instructor and then kind of rebuilt the course that I first joined as a student and then built some other courses. And basically for the bulk of the time I was there, I was the guy behind the scenes building the courses in his voice, mostly based on his knowledge. And that was like a seven-figure business. But what we did is it was one of those sites where everything was tied together with like the best in breed tools, but they were all glued together with, lots of tech, sticky tape. And so I
Mm-hmm.
saw the pros and cons of that roll your own approach. And when I left that business, I started looking into course platforms, more integrated platforms. And I went on a little bit of a journey where I realized that there are some real bells and whistles platforms out there, but I didn't want to be using platforms that I didn't feel were right for the people that I was teaching. I didn't want to recommend that was something that was overkill and maybe overwhelming. And Podio seemed to be really adding a lot of features when I started looking at it. So when I launched my course, I did it on Podia so that I could say to people, well, hey, you don't have to use Podia, but you've used it by being on my course. And I think it's pretty good for people sort of taking their first steps. And I just love the simplicity of it. I'm the kind of person where if there are lots of bells and whistles, I kind of want to dig into them and play with them. And then 5 hours later, I asked myself whether that was really a great use of my time. I should have
Mm-hmm.
just been working, on the content and the structure. So that's been my journey, and I've certainly seen over the last 6 months, a year, Podius really seems to have ramped up the kind of features that it's adding, which is great, and I love watching that journey.
Well, very cool. And thank you for that glowing review. We're we're really excited to jump into some of these lead magnet reviews and see the ways that people have been using Podia to highlight their products and try to get people into their newsletters and to grow their audience. I want to quickly walk through kind of the flow for this for folks who are watching. And by the way, if you're watching, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave those. And we're going to make time after each lead magnet review to bring those in and address them. So feel free to do that. So this first one, are you ready to jump in, Glen?
I'm ready to jump in. Hopefully, people can see my screen or will be able to.
Absolutely. All right. So this first lead magnet comes to us from Brett Miller of metalguitaracademy.com. And through his Metal Guitar Academy material and Zoom sessions, he's helped thousands of guitar students from Nebraska to Nepal achieve their guitar goals. All right, so Glen, let's take a look at this and what insights do you have for us?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I don't know if people know how this works with the Podia Pros reviewing the lead magnets, but we got to choose, and I picked this one because I love the look and feel of it. I wouldn't say I was a metal fan, but I love me some rock guitar. My son, just 7 years old, has just started learning the guitar, and he came home from school. First lesson, learning how to play Happy Birthday. The second lesson, they taught him the riff to Smoke on the Water. So I was pretty impressed with that. So let's dive in with this. I mean, my first, well, let's take it on first principles. So this is the lead magnet page. Metal Guitar Academy really sets out the stall, I think, for what this site is about. Brett certainly looks the part, which is very cool. But my first thought was um, beginner boot camp doesn't, it's fairly broad in terms of what's on offer here. There's a lot that could be covered in a boot camp. It tells us a little bit more. There's a free 90-minute video lesson with bonus picking mechanics vid. I mean, the picking mechanics is the most specific this gets. And as you go down, you realize just how much stuff Brett is giving away here. So it's a 90-minute video lesson. If we scroll down, I'll go into a little bit more detail in a second of these individual components, but there's all this stuff you're going to learn in the 90-minute beginner boot camp. There's a bonus lesson around picking techniques. There's a bonus workout. Brett is a really generous guy. And in some ways that's good. But when you look at it through the very narrow lens of a lead magnet, there are some potential issues. I mean, I think Brett is just being too generous here. And I know generosity can be a great way to build an audience and to sort of build affection with people. But the idea really of a lead magnet is you want somebody to want that thing right now and feel like it's going to be easy to get and easy to get benefit from. And I was trying to think of an analogy. I love analogies when I'm teaching my students. I try and use as many as I can. But there's a shopping center near where I live that we sometimes go to, and there's a artisanal chocolate shop there. And often they'll have somebody standing outside with a tray of little cubes of chocolate. And I'm a huge chocolate freak, basically. And if somebody is standing out there with that tray, there's no way that I'm not going to grab a piece because it's there. It takes a second to grab it. I'm going to get the win, the hit straight away. It's a total no-brainer. But if you imagine that somebody from the same chocolate shop stopped me and said, "Hey, you know what? Special deal today. It's totally free. Why don't you come in for 3 hours? We're going to take you through a guided tasting session of chocolates around the world. You'll end up eating or sampling maybe £100, $100 worth of chocolate. It's kind of like a huge deal. It's massively generous, but I may be thinking, well, I don't really have 3 hours. I was just wandering past. However generous that offer is, it's not a quick thing to get benefit from. And I think it's the same thing here with the lead magnet. Um,
That's a
as
great
generous as that
analogy.
this is, yeah, and as generous as this is, it's not a quick thing, and I don't even know exactly what I'm going to get out of it if I spend the 90 minutes. There isn't a clear outcome. Um, the title again is a bit broad. There's not specific keywords in there like heavy metal riff or lick or there was some, yeah, I think lick was the word that Brett uses in his videos. So I think you would do better, Brett, to kind of almost maybe have this as a product behind the scenes and have something much, much more focused and quick win. Now, you'd be better than me to know exactly what that should be, but what if you taught a specific riff? What if you said, I'm going to show you in 10 minutes how to double your picking speed, something like that. It's just really quick. It's a really tangible, specific goal. And I think it's much more attractive. It's just going to grab people's attention. Um, Another, I guess, illustration of the fact that I think you're trying too much here is there's a lot of text here. You know, there's quite a lot going on here, which you would expect for a sales page for a paid product. But because you want this to be such a quick win thing, you shouldn't have to really sell it this hard. Another silly analogy I use is if I could give you the winning lotto numbers, I wouldn't have to have a sales page of benefits telling you, hey, if you win this money, you can impress friends and family, you could buy the. I could literally just say, want the lotto numbers? And that would be enough. Yes, of course I do. I'm going to give you my email address if you genuinely could give me those numbers. So it shouldn't need selling too hard. And actually, what I found because of the amount of text on here is that the on mobile, there was no CTA. I mean, Podia does quite a nice thing. When you start scrolling, it pops up a little banner at the top and gives you the opportunity to get the freebie, to click the button. But you had to scroll down to get the button to actually get the freebie. Um, what else? Okay, so this is a more general thing, and this is an idea that I borrowed from my old boss, but I think he probably borrowed it from somewhere else. The most compelling way to sell somebody on anything really, and to get instant credibility is what he called demonstration of magical powers. And what that means is if you can do something in the moment that people really, really want to do, then you've instantly persuaded them. So my old boss, John Morrow, was incredibly good at coming up with killer headlines on the fly. So he'd run these workshops and people would pitch him a fairly poor headline and he could come up with 3 or 4 on the fly that were 10 times better. And that just instantly established his credibility. And what I thought was kind of funny was I really wanted to see Brett play the guitar. And I watched a few videos. I want a demonstration of Brett's magical powers. And I really struggled to find, there's a lot of him talking about the guitar and holding the guitar and a few close ups. But I would love him to just, if he played like a 10-second amazing riff and the lead magnet was literally, I will teach you to do this, I think it would just sell people right away. So that's kind of more general, but it does relate to the lead magnet because you don't have to talk about it. You're in a great field here. You don't have to talk about it. You can just do it and then say, hey, you want to be able to pick as fast as I can? Here's my top 3 tips. Get it in a download. So again, it speaks to that idea of just being very, very specific and very, very practical. What else was I going to say? Ben, is how are we doing so far? This is my first one. Is this the sort of thing we want? I can't actually hear you for some reason, Ben. I don't know if others
Sorry
can.
about that. I forgot to unmute
There you
myself. All right.
go.
Um, yeah, I love what you just said about having a video and showcasing, and was the phrase demonstrate the magical power.
Demonstration of magical power. Yeah, whatever it
That's
is, if you
yeah,
can
that's wonderful.
demonstrate it, then you cut through all of the who is this guy? Can he really do what he? I don't want it. I'm not saying that Brett does this, but I don't want somebody talking for 10 minutes about playing guitar and guitar technique. I want them to play the damn guitar. And I think
Yeah,
there are lots of fields that are like that. Not every field is like that. But if you're a copywriter and you can rewrite something in 10 seconds and make it 10 times better, that's a demonstration of magical powers. So yeah, I really recommend looking at it through that lens. The only other thing I had in my notes, and Ben, if there's anything that you want me to pick up on, I will. I'm going to scroll down the page anyway just to see if I've got any final comments.
no,
But
continue. This
Brett,
is great.
when I registered when I registered for Brett's lead magnet, there's an upsell there, and for a paid course. I think it's a very modestly priced course, but Ben knows. Sorry, Brett, I'm sure knows his market. Um, but it it was a course, and it was a course with 143 lessons in it. So if I was already feeling overwhelmed about a lead magnet that will take me 90 minutes plus bonuses to get the benefit out of, I'm sort of doubly overwhelmed by the idea that the next stage is a 143 lesson course. Now, I'm somebody who loves bite-sized lessons. My courses have quite a few lessons, but I really make it clear that there's a lot of lessons because they're really, really short. So Brett, I'd love to know. Email me or contact me if you say, "Man, you know what? That upsell converts like a dream." Then I'm super happy to be wrong. But if it doesn't, then I think that may be the reason. There's just you're giving a lot. You're giving a lot, and people just want something short and sweet. So let's just quickly scroll down. you've got a beginner uh, uh, guitar boot camp. I would like to just see more in the copy, just more examples. Call out a few bands, a few songs that people might want to play, and whatever you can do to really bring this to life. Speak the language of your audience, even if you're not getting exactly the right tunes for your audience. They're going to be cool riffs that they want to play, even if they're not the world's biggest fan of the band. So that's one thought. This is really kind of small and picky, but I can't help but look at little bits of detail. So you've got a quote here it's pitched as a quote. It's got quotes around it. It's got your name against it, Brett. But it says why the info in this boot camp is so important for beginning guitarists. It's not really a quote. It's kind of a description of what's in that video. And again, the video doesn't have you playing the guitar; it has you holding the guitar. What else? You've got some awesome testimonials here. I think if you had some testimonials that were specific to the lead magnet, that would be great. Sometimes I know it's quite difficult to do that. So a fallback position is to have testimonials for you as the teacher. So yeah, and you've got the bonus and a couple of bonuses there. I would say maybe as a quick thing, what if this bonus lesson about picking technique was your lead magnet, and then the 90-minute workshop was a low dollar course? I think it's already more specific. Bonus lesson laser focuses on the mechanics of pick, grip, hand position, and more. You don't want to miss this. I think it's just much more contained. It's much clearer. So I think that's all I have on for Brett.
Awesome. I wanted to, if you could scroll down a little bit where
Sure.
it
Yes.
says beginner guitar boot camp and that section. And first of all, you kind of you can scroll back up just a little bit.
Oh, sorry.
Um,
There.
yeah, with the blue background there. Yes. Um, and you kind of mentioned this already, how uh, the call to action doesn't show up until they actually scroll down the page, and um, and just anything we can do to kind of move that up closer to the top and give people an opportunity right away instead of having to scroll down and look for something, because some people are going to show up already convinced and ready to opt into something. But I did want to point out in the copy here and kind of ask you a question in this. I'm looking at the words that are highlighted, and I'm seeing where to start: overwhelming, bad habits, steer steer you clear, and solid foundations. And I'm thinking about it in terms of, if I'm the person putting together this course and I'm asking myself the question, why are people are the sorry this lead magnet, why would somebody be interested in this boot camp? What struggles or problems are they having? And so you could probably, pull each one of these out and say, yes, that's true. They might be wondering where to start. Yeah, yes, it's true. They might be feeling overwhelmed. Yes, it's true. They might be worried about, developing bad habits. But there are also a whole list of other things that are true about why people would be interested in this kind of boot camp that are just much more powerful. So, and it's things like you mentioned, like they want to learn how to play a specific song, or they want to impress people or something like that. As a creator who's trying to think and put themselves in their customer's shoes and highlight, those problems or those struggles, how how can that creator think about and identify the right things to highlight versus things that might be true but not quite as powerful?
Yeah, that's a great question because now you point it out. I think this wanders a little bit into what they need rather than what they want territory. I mean, it's certainly true. I would guess it's true that bad habits, I mean, what do we say? Not developing bad habits that grind your progress to a halt. But whether it's front of mind for somebody landing on this page to think, their number one problem is their bad habits are grinding their progress to a halt. They're probably just thinking, like you say, I'd love to be at a party and play a cool riff. Um, in terms of finding out what those things might be, The old fashioned, or at least in digital terms, old fashioned answer would be go on blogs. I mean, first thing, if you have an audience, if you have an email list, then email them, run surveys, that kind of thing. Otherwise, go in Facebook groups, Reddit, those types of places, and find out what people are actually saying that they want to be able to do. These days, of course, we have Chat GPT, which has pulled a lot of that information that you would otherwise have found manually and ingested it. So you can ask it, what are the number three, the top three things that budding heavy rock or heavy metal guitarists want to learn. And I think it will probably come back with some pretty good stuff because it's ultimately doing the same thing that you would do if you went out on the internet to research that stuff. So I totally agree. It needs to be much more like benefit led, but also it's kind of what they want. It's that old thing of teach them what they need via a promise of what they want. And
Mm-hmm.
I would guess, I mean, I have a guitar. My son uses my guitar. I barely use it. But yeah, I'd love to be able to strum something more than sort of half an Oasis song. I'd love to be able to kind of pick something out. I don't want to spend a lot of time. If you could teach me how to do that in 5 minutes a day and say at the end of 1 week, I'd be able to play a riff, I'd love that. I'm not even at the stage where I'm thinking about bad habits. I don't even really have any habits, good or bad. So yeah, just focus on those positives.
That's great. Yeah, the needs versus wants thing is one of the bigger struggles that a lot of um, users have when they're trying to figure out, okay, how do I describe this? And you know, because we're so familiar with the thing that we're teaching, we know all of the things that our students need. It's really easy to see what they need, but really thinking about what they want is how we make that connection. It's good stuff.
And
All
and
right, do
and
you?
also what people don't realize is that even if they're thinking they really really need this thing, I must teach it, you won't get the opportunity to teach the thing that they need unless you lure them in with the thing that they want. So you can't
Hmm.
force through. You need to kind of open the door for them through the lens of something that they already want.
Yeah, that's fantastic advice. All right. Do you have anything else for this one?
Let's just scroll down. Yeah, I mean, I liked seeing Brett on camera here with the guitar. Like I said, he certainly looks the part, and I did find a little clip, and he is awesome on the guitar. But maybe this video could be up top. This doesn't really add much. This image, I don't think. So I'd rather just see him a short video up top. The testimonials, as I said, are pretty cool. Was there much else to say? Yeah, I think this is fine. I was going to mention this on somebody else's lead magnet. I think on Pody you can. I'm trying to remember the exact granularity of it. You can certainly determine how much information is shown here. Off the top of my head, I can't remember if you can just switch the size off. But it always makes me laugh when I see how big things are because I don't think somebody's going to go, oh wow, I'm definitely going to have that because it's over like a gig and a half. It must be good. So if there is a way to just like maybe keep the length but turn off the those details, I think that would be good because it doesn't really help. I don't think. But I think
Yeah,
that's
I'm
it.
yeah, I'm pretty sure there is. Um, or you could turn that off if you have to turn the length and the size off at the same time, but maybe put the length in the title.
Yeah. Or even he's already said elsewhere. I think that it's 3 30-minute segments. So um,
Yeah.
yeah,
All right.
cool. Okay.
Um, well, I'm gonna bring in a comment real quick from Tom Cleary. Says
Oh
fantastic,
yes,
clear. Yeah, you know Tom.
I do know Tom actually.
All right.
Sorry, he's not
Um,
my flatmate or anything. But yeah, it's cool that he's online.
yeah. Well, and he said fantastic, clear, useful, memorable advice as always, Glenn.
Awesome.
So
Thank you, Tom.
yeah. Um, yeah. The having I was thinking about this as you were talking about the video, and in particular, showing the magical power, demonstrating the magical power but it's also, at the very top, he's got a picture of himself. And I think that's good. You can show people what you look like, and you can see that his look matches his brand and everything. But video just gives you an opportunity to connect with people in a way that just an image by itself can't. And and that's something that we've noticed in other lead magnet reviews and website reviews, is that it can be really powerful to have even just a short video, because people get to see the way that you speak and the way that you present yourself. And it really helps them determine, oh, is this someone I would want to learn from, and watch a 90-minute video from,
Totally. And
some
also,
things.
I noticed that he has private lessons is one of the services that he offers. And if you watch a video and think, yeah, I could get on with that guy, he seems like my kind of guy, I think it's going to increase the chances of people just cutting straight to the private lessons.
Oh yeah, absolutely. All right. Are you ready to
Okay.
jump into the next lead magnet?
I am. I am. Let's do that. Let's there we go. That's
All
the
right.
lead
So
magnet.
this next one comes to us from Lindsay Coulter, who is a wedding and portrait photography educator, and she teaches photographers how to create profitable and sustainable businesses at betterthanbooked.com.
Okay, let's get
Uh,
into this. Thanks, Lindsay. I don't know if you're watching or not. Maybe you'll be watching after the fact. But yeah, the reason I picked this one, I'm going to sound like I've had every job in the world, but I used to also write wedding speeches, funny wedding speeches for people. I had a little side business doing that, and I have a student at the moment who's a luxury wedding planner. So um, the wedding connection, and I'm married, I should say, just in case my wife's watching. And yeah, so that was what drew me to this one. So first thought, I mean, I really I like the photo of Lindsay. I like how kind of human that is. When I was scrolling down here, I'll get to it in a minute. There's some brilliant photography here, as you would expect for a wedding photographer. Lots of great credibility here. So Lindsay clearly knows her stuff and is very successful. She reached her first six-figure goal in under 1 year of business. That's pretty impressive. And the reason I say that is it does inflect upon what I'm going to say up here, because all the things that we said about Brett's site in terms of keeping it like simple and narrow and being really clear what the benefit is, I do feel like there's quite a lot going on here, and the messaging is a little bit mixed. So, from looking at the site, what I understand that Lindsay does really well is that she's a wedding photographer who understands the business side of things and can teach you as a wedding photographer or budding wedding photographer to really ramp up that side of your business. So the key things are, weddings, photography, business. Those are the three pillars, if you like. But when I look at this page, there's a good amount going on. So the name of the site is Photography Business with Lindsay Coulter. So is it a general? Is weddings just one of the things that Lindsay does, or is it just that you wanted a shorter name? Not quite sure. The name of the site is Better Than Booked, so that speaks to getting more business, getting more leads. But something that occurred to, and I'm not suggesting, Lindsay, I know your URL is Better Than Booked, but I don't understand what Better Than Booked is. So I think it needs to be clearer. You need to make that link. So I said I love analogies. So here's an example. If I had a site that said that promised better than rich, and I want to be rich, I might not want better than rich, because what you think is better than rich might not be as good as what I know rich actually is. So maybe you think better than rich doesn't involve money, it involves something else. So if in your mind better than booked sounds better than being booked, it may not to everybody. So I'm not suggesting you change the name of your business. Just tell us what you mean by better than booked. Maybe it means, I think it means that you're building an audience and those leads are just coming in with no work from you. And if that's the case, I think that needs to be clearer. A good mindset to have with a lead magnet is, imagine I'm your absolute perfect subscriber, but I know nothing about you other than what I find on this page. I need to establish incredibly quickly that you're the perfect person for me. And I think with these, I don't think there's anything wrong with any one of these messages, but they are pushing and pulling in slightly different directions. The other piece is the main title of the lead magnet is around hacking your productivity. Now, I can see how being more productive would improve your photography business, but only as much as it would improve any business. So, again, it's that connection between wedding photography, business, and productivity that I think is not quite as tight and narrow as it could be. Devil's question, advocate question I pose is that a front of mind problem for your audience? I wish I were more productive, and then I would my wedding business, my wedding photography business, would be where I want it to be. I don't know. Maybe you have research that shows that is a number one kind of concern, but I'm not. It doesn't resonate intuitively with me. Another thing, and I can totally see why you've done this, and it's a good stepping stone. I'm not a huge fan of having a lead magnet that's just a module from another course, because I think intuitively we know that something that was designed to be part of a bigger puzzle is not going to be fully satisfying on its own. And from a tactical point of view, I can see why you would do that because you've got the content. Why not reuse it? And so if it's a stopgap, that makes perfect sense. It's better having something like this than just waiting until you've built the perfect lead magnet. But just kind of consider that. So what else was I going to say? Oh, yeah. So I've said all these things that aren't quite lined up. Let me try and join it up for you. It's about productivity, but what you're teaching people is how to get booked and make more money and be more successful. So what if you made the connection more explicitly? And it's something like your lead magnet, and I'm quickly jotted something down here, but maybe learn the top 3 productivity habits of 6-figure wedding photographers.
Hmm.
In that headline, you've you're talking about productivity. You've linked it to revenue. You're saying it's 6-figure. You're mentioning that it's wedding, which the I'm not seeing that in either the lead magnet name or the major the hero image. So I think you really need to tick those boxes. So I'm not saying productivity isn't a good goal, but I need you to join the dots for me. If you feel, Lindsay, that your grasp of productivity is the secret to your 6 figures within 1 year success, then awesome. Teach me that, but make it clear that that's why you're teaching me productivity, not just because it's the shortest module maybe you have in your course that's already built, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and this
Um,
definitely feels like another one of those what they need versus what they want sort of situations.
Yes, exactly. So I would brainstorm a list of things that are on the path to being, let's say, fully booked or overbooked, but seem more achievable. So it could just be, how to get more leads, or how to get one extra lead a week qualified, or better leads, or something like that, because getting leads is a necessary step on the path to being fully booked. You don't want to promise them the whole thing within a lead magnet, one because it's not going to be a quick fix, and another because you probably want to teach them that bit for money. The other thing which ties all this together really is when I'd like to see what it looks like on my mobile, because we often shop and browse on the mobiles these days, is the better than booked hero image. The way that it's set up on Podio, it dominates. It's most of the screen. And again, just with that perspective, if that's what I'm seeing above the fold, um, I'm not seeing the word wedding. I'm not seeing a camera. If I would expect in the visuals maybe to see some of those things echoed back at me. I see a very nice picture of Lindsay sat in front of a laptop, but I'd like to see more things that are directly would resonate with me as a wedding photographer. So just be aware of that, and it's a quick fix. It's just wherever you created your image, go back into Canva and just make some of those elements more prominent, because actually turns out that hacking your productivity or whatever you put in that headline space is below the fold, at least on my phone, and it's not a tiny phone. So just be a little bit aware of that. Okay, what else did I have? Yeah, Ben, did you have any thoughts? That was most of what I had. I'm very happy to keep going down here. Um, I will just say that I thought this, you know, the bio was really good, really strong. I mean, clearly you know what you're doing, Lindsay. I think you can just pull some aspect of what you do so well more clearly into a lead magnet that the right people really, really, really want.
Yeah, and I like that you, as we're looking at this on desktop, it's everything's right there above the fold. But I like that you called out the mobile thing, um, and inside the site builder, when you're putting together your sales page at the very top, you can actually toggle between the regular desktop view, a tablet view, and a mobile view, so that you can get a sense of, okay, what is this going to look like for people experiencing it on different devices, so that if you see something like that, um, that can help you make decisions about, oh, maybe I need to make this image smaller so that they see the headline for the text above the fold, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
Um,
and something actually I will also say, which applied to Brett's as well, and this is a common issue with lead magnets, and I think we've all done it to some extent, is that yes, it's free, and if there's any doubt in people's mind that it's free, then you should correct that. But we know how these things work. If you see an email sign up on a website, they're not going to then say, "Oh, thanks very much, but that's $30." We know it's free, so I'm not saying you shouldn't say it's free, but sometimes we over say that it's free. So here we've got free. I think Podio has inserted that, and we've got free in the headline. We've got free here. We've got free here, and in the button it says free. And I think for me personally, when somebody talks about the freeness so much, it makes me think they think it's the best thing about the product.
hmm.
Um, Whereas if somebody downloads your lead magnet and someone else were to ask you about it, and they said, "Well, how was Lindsay's lead magnet?" and you go, "Well, it was free." I don't want that to be the biggest benefit that they feel like they got from it. So mention once or twice that it's free, and then really emphasize where you will be after taking the advice or filling in the checklist or whatever it is that the lead magnet gives you. Focus on that benefit. The free should either be assumed or just like a hygiene factor where they go, of course it's free because it's on the front page of my website and all I'm asking for is your email address.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I do have a couple of comments from someone, and I'm interested in your take.
Sure.
So I'll bring these in real quick. So think positive. Honda Honda Photography says hello from Germany. I would change the copy from this is in that first section. Said I would change the copy from "We are so excited" to "I am so excited" in the first text. And then they also commented and said her bio part maybe more with her words and not from the third person. So, I guess in that first part, their suggestion is taking it from we language to I language, and I think related to that in the bio, having more of a first person written bio. What are your thoughts on that? And do you find it makes a difference?
I think for the most part it is better. I agree with that advice, particularly if you are essentially a one person business. I mean, I did this when I was starting out a few years ago. And so I had a company name rather than operating under my own name. And then because it's a business, you don't want to seem like it's a fly by night, one person could disappear overnight business. So you start talking about we do this and our clients are like this. But deep down, I think people want to know that they're dealing with, if they are dealing with one person, it's good to let them know that. And also here, when it says we are so excited to share a free module, I I don't know who Lindsay would mean by the we. I mean, she mentions down here that she's married to an internationally renowned photographer, Taylor Jackson. So is he part of this business? Does he teach maybe some of the modules? I'm not sure. If it is a two-hander, and that's part of the benefit, you're getting the experience, from two different perspectives and maybe slightly nuanced perspectives. That's awesome, but make it clear that it's the two of you contributing to this lead magnet. But I think it's more engaging if you if you use the first person. And also think about it, text on a page versus like how Brett had it with a video. They're really just content choices. Okay, they're just format choices. But it would be weird if Brett was in his video talking about himself in the third person, about Brett as an experienced axeman with 10 years of shredding experience. But then if you switch that to text on a page, why would you change from first person to second person or third person? It doesn't really make sense. So I would agree with that. What about you, Ben? What have you found?
Yeah, I agree with that. I feel in many cases with a business like that where it's apparent that this is a person, um, using the copy to support the idea that I am a person. I am the person that you'll be learning from, that you'll be communicating with. It's me, and really just kind of drawing them into that with the language you're using, can just strengthen the affinity, which we know has positive effects on opting in and purchasing products and becoming fans and all of those things. I
Definitely.
do, I do. When you were talking about Brett in a video, I was just imagining Brett talking about himself in the third person, and there's a scenario where that's actually really kind of funny and charming in a way
Yeah.
that would be interesting. So,
I could
Brett's
see I could see a
Brett's an
funny
axe guy.
video where he starts off like that, and then
Hmm.
suddenly it cuts to Brett going, "Man, what are you doing? Talking about yourself in the third person? You look like an idiot." And then it cuts back to third person Brett, and he can't pull himself out of that trap because that's how he wants to do it. So that could be funny, but I think it needs to be like knowingly funny, not accidentally funny.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. Hmm. All right. Any other thoughts on this one?
I don't think so. No, I
I've
think
got a
I think
question
that's all
for you
good.
here. So, looking at this page, I realized she's got the get the free module, at the top, and then further down the page, she has a newsletter sign up form, and I'm assuming that those are uh, ending up, getting people into the same place, perhaps, into her subscriber list. But what are your thoughts on having multiple? Because it is kind of a different, um,
It's a different
like,
thing, and just
right,
thinking about how Podia would do that. I'm guessing that the subscribe probably isn't giving access to this lead magnet because it's just the newsletter opt-in mechanism. So unless there's some campaign behind the scenes that's doing that separately, so
right,
exactly as you say, with any page that is designed to convert, you don't want to give any more choices. It's like and something I hope Podia does in future is maybe to even allow us to remove this top header piece. A classic sales page would be like, you're on this page and you have two options. You do the thing or you press back on your browser. I'm not going to give you any other options. And that would be like an old-fashioned squeeze page. But I think there's still some real benefit in just doing that. Make it super simple what you want them to do, and by just having two possible routes into getting closer to what Lindsay is doing, I think that's potentially problematic. You also might get somebody sign up, like get the product, and then go, "Oh, did that mean I get the newsletter as well? I better go back and re-sign up for the newsletter just in case that's something different."
All
So
right.
I
Another,
would lose it.
yeah, that makes sense. And I'll definitely keep that feedback in mind as well. Bring that back to the team. So, but definitely, we find in many different aspects of marketing, the fewer choices you can give people, the better. When you're sending out an email newsletter, the fewer links you have in there for people to click,
Yep.
the better. That kind of thing. Unless you're, doing some kind of um, a compilation sort of thing, and that's part of the value. But there's another,
Yeah, or a survey, like a one-click survey where you're saying, which of these three product names do you think sounds coolest? Fine, give them a small handful of options. That's the point. But most of the time, yeah, just the one thing. Or what I've seen done, a lot of the marketers do, they might have several links, but they all point into the same place. So that it's like
mm-hmm.
multiple opportunities to try and get you where you want people to go
Yeah, absolutely.
in an email. I mean,
Got another good comment here from
cool.
Think
Just going to take this
Positive.
swig of water.
Sure. Uh, who says maybe another color for the CTR for the button at the top of the page. And so this kind of makes me think of a question of when you're building your website and you're thinking about the color palette and that kind of thing, and you make choices for your branding colors, and oftentimes, so you can set defaults in Podia, but you can also select custom colors for buttons in sections. Um, and so it looks like her default might be that orange that's on the login button at the top, and that's also in the subscribe button down at the bottom. But this green color doesn't pop quite as much. It's definitely a good contrast, but
Yeah,
um,
it's good to have different. I mean, I feel like at this point I should hold my hand up and say I'm actually colorblind. So I've tried to avoid mentioning. That doesn't mean I'm seeing in black and white. I can definitely see those are two different colors, and I would probably guess they were orange and green. But I don't feel that qualified to talk about color palettes. But definitely, if you can have a consistency across, like if your CTAs are always a certain color, if you can have more informational buttons, maybe be a secondary color, something like that. Those things are subtle, but you want to make it clear. Again, it comes down to that thing. Have one thing you want them to do and signpost that thing as clearly as you can. And I think having a opt-in button color that pops is one way to signpost that. And at the moment, I think I'm probably just repeating what you're saying, but it's almost like the login button, which is a standard placement on the Podia header, that's popping more than get the free module. And actually, the login is something they can't do because they're not a user yet. So you really
mm,
don't want them clicking the login button. You want them clicking the free module button.
yeah, and I believe you can also in your Podia site builder click on the header and change the color of that button as well
I think you should be
by
able to,
itself.
yeah. It's more informational, that button, so I think it should be a more muted tone. If somebody is a member of your site and they want to log in, they're not going to not log in because the button isn't popping enough. They already know they want to do that. They're just trying to find where it is.
All right. Any other thoughts on this one before we move on?
No, I don't think so. Are we time locked at the hour? I don't. I can definitely run on. I just don't want to cheat Liz out of sorry, the
Oh, of
next
course.
person out
No,
of
no, we're good. We definitely have some time. So,
excellent.
um, Robert Rodriguez is tuning in from Robert Rodriguez Music, and he's said great tips. So, thanks, Robert. Thanks for
Awesome.
joining us. All right, so let's jump into this last one.
Okay, let's do that.
All right, this lead magnet is from Liz. Liz is the creator of the Productivity Club, and her mission is to help people Harness digital for human benefit. All right. So what do you have for us here on this one, Glenn?
Yeah, so let me. I realize I'm on the front page rather than the other page. So let me just get the link. I mean, I should while I'm doing this, I'll say I had a reason for picking everybody's site, and this one was kind of like a selfish one because it was and obviously I was a British person, so I thought it'd be fun if the Brit reviewed the Brit. So let me just find that link. Do you have the link to hand? I'm just looking for it in my
I
email. Sorry,
I do. No,
let
no
me do that.
problem. Let me grab it real quick here. All right. I just texted or chatted that over to you.
Excellent. And now I just find the chat box. Oh yeah, got it. There we go. Of course, I recognize it now that I see it. Right. Thanks for that, Ben.
No worries.
Okay. So, this is a site from Liz Hardwick. It's the productivityclub.co.uk. And we're looking at the digital productivity wheel. So I should say from the start, although sometimes I'm not a fan of more enigmatic sort of lead magnet titles. I really like the idea of a digital productivity wheel. I don't really know what it might be. I can have a guess. Um, but I think it's enticing enough and suggestive enough that I kind of want it. It sounds quite tangible and manageable. So I really like that. Um, I also really like the alignment between the lead magnet and what Liz seems to offer on the site. So one of the things that stands out is that she offers one-to-one productivity coaching. So I'm guessing that the digital productivity wheel is like an opportunity to find maybe where you're lacking in terms of your productivity. And then once you've realized that, hey, why not work one-to-one with a productivity coach? So the alignment is really good. And I think that's maybe something I didn't bring to light as much on the other ones. Certainly, Brett's I think was fairly well aligned. He offered private guitar lessons, so I guess I didn't compliment Brett as much on the alignment, but the alignment was good. Um, so, what else? I would like to see a more concrete image. I know on previous reviews, people talked a lot about with digital products, it's difficult to imagine them sometimes and bring them to life. And the more that we know what we're getting, the more enticing it can seem. So it's a very common thing to create, like, I wouldn't say fake, but box shots for products. Like if I'm selling an online course, I may have an image that is like a I'm old enough that when you bought software, it used to be in a really heavy box with a bunch of manuals, and you pulled the sleeve off, and you got out like a dozen CDs or something like that. But you will see box shots for products that will never come in a box, but they help us visualize what it might be, and it feels like a real thing. So while I quite like this sort of swirly vortex images thing, I'm conscious that I might not be seeing all the colors that everybody else is, but I like it. It's not very concrete. So if there's a way of showing us the productivity wheel without giving all your secrets away, because I know it is mostly one image what you're giving them, so it could be a little bit blurred maybe. I'll give you a good example. I'm a bit of a stationery fiend, and I love books and nice journals and things like that. And I often go on Amazon and look for the latest productivity journal. And I want to know how they've broken things down. It's like the 3 wins in your day and the things that must be done and the reflections and all of that. And I love seeing how people have done that. But here's the thing: if the images are too detailed on the Amazon product page, you could just kind of create it in Google Docs and use their system without ever paying for a journal. So they need to be quite artful about how much they show you. So sometimes you'll see one section, but the rest is blurred. Anyway, I think there's a way to give people a sense of what your digital productivity wheel is without giving all your secrets away. So just think about how you might create an image that makes it feel more tangible. I'd also like to see, I mean, we're saying the same things, but that's because these rules apply to almost all lead magnets. I'd like to see a more tangible benefit. You're saying review where you're at with your digital productivity with Liz Hardwick's very own digital productivity wheel. Think a wheel of life if you've ever used one of those, but it's all about your digital productivity levels for various areas. So I get a sense of what we're talking about here, but I'm not powerfully drawn to the idea of reviewing where I'm at with my productivity. I want something a bit more precise, a bit more action oriented. So I think we could tighten that up a little bit. I did have a crack at trying to work on the copy. So here's my attempt at some copy. It's roughly the same number of words. So it could still have the digital productivity wheel as the heading. I think we could tighten that up a little bit. But as the text, I've got, how productive are you really? Score your digital productivity across the 8 core areas that matter. Download and complete the digital productivity wheel in just 5 minutes and transform your digital day. So I'm not really promising much more there, but I am suggesting a few things. First of all, I'm telling you that it's quick to complete, and that's always a good thing. It's going back to that chocolate example from the start. Like 3 hours eating chocolate is great, but I might not have 3 hours right now. So if it takes 5 minutes, great, I can do it now. I think something else that you're suggesting there, and I've taken this from the wheel because I've looked at the wheel and I've seen it's got 8 segments in the wheel. So I'm kind of saying I've done the work of telling you what digital productivity looks like by working out those 8 pieces. Because right now I might think I know where my digital productivity is at. I might say it's okay. But with this lead magnet, what you're saying is, well, no, you need to look at these 8 areas. And if you're not scoring yourself in these 8 areas, you don't really have a decent view of your digital productivity at all. So that would be my adjusted copy. And I had some thoughts about what happens when you get inside there, which I'll go into in a minute. But let me just scroll down. I don't think there's much. Oh, there we go. So Liz talks about the Productivity Club, which is the site as a whole. And I guess the purpose of this is just to establish some credibility, I guess, or maybe it's a boilerplate bit of content that appears across the site just to explain the context for this. But I wasn't sure how it supported the digital productivity wheel. One thought here before Ben, I hope you've got some thoughts on this as well. But for this button, and this is a general tip, make sure you hint at the benefit in the button. Like download now, it's not the downloading that I'm interested in. It was something like, you could put something like, yes, I want this, or tell me how productive I am, or something like that links the action of clicking the button to the benefit that you're going to get. Just downloading is kind of how you get it. It's not an enticing sort of a call to action. So sometimes you will see like, yes, give me this. And there's just something more energetic about that. It inspires action, whereas download now is just functional.
Yeah.
Ben, did you
Well,
have
and
any thoughts on this?
yeah, I wanted to kind of put together the copy you came up with, kind of compared to the first line of what she has in her call to action. So review where you're at with your digital productivity versus how productive are you really? I love that it's posed as a question and it's a challenge. It's so the first one, review where you're at with your digital productivity. That's like not making any assumptions about how productive you may or may not be. But this is a tool that allows you to review your productivity. But in my mind, I'm thinking, Well, I think I already know how productive I am. And it's just not as it's not challenging me. It's not challenging the assumptions that I'm coming to this with. Whereas that question, it's it's really like it is a challenge. It's like, okay, but how productive are you really? And that immediately makes me think, oh, I need to. It's it's almost like on some of those social media sites where like what's your Harry Potter knowledge score or something like that. Like it's a little bit of a challenge. It's like I want to know how I score, and then I feel like what you were mentioning with the button, you can almost link it directly to that and say find out your productivity score, and it really just ties all of that together. But I wanted to put those two side by side and kind of demonstrate the difference. Am I on track with that, or what are some thoughts that you have about that tactic?
Absolutely, yeah, you've broken it down perfectly. It's just comes back to these things that we've talked about. You want, like with any marketing, in an ideal world, you want to be able to promise like a huge benefit that is requires no work on the part of the person and happens really, really quickly. Now, you can't achieve that. I mean, in Harry Potter world, you can. It would be a spell, but in the real world, you can't. So what do? You have to make it tick those boxes as much as possible. So maybe if like getting fit, okay? So we know that's hard work. There's no just magic switch to get super fit and ripped. But maybe if you can make it a little bit easier than the average way of going to the gym, then that's kind of attractive. Or maybe it's really hard work, but the result happens more quickly than other methods. Or maybe the result itself is bigger, like you want to get really powerfully built, then this method is for you. So those are the kind of the levers that you can pull. So with a lead magnet, we are saying it's a small thing, it's free. So what do you need to do? You need to make it seem really quick and easy. And there's something about the word review. I don't say it's a bad word, but it's what's review? I mean, if I had a review in a job, that could take like an hour or two. If I, do a full, there's no bound to it really. So to me, reviewing where I'm at with my digital productivity sounds like it might be some work, and most people don't like a lot of work. So I love the way that you've kind of pulled that out, and also when you seed a little bit of uncertainty, that works really well. So this idea that hey, maybe you're not that productive. I mean, we've got to think that if people are landing on this page and reviewing it, they have at least a sneaky suspicion that they're not as productive as they could be. But we want to twist the knife a little bit and say, well, look,
Mm-hmm.
you probably don't know, so let's give you a really robust, thorough way of telling you where you're at. But I want to emphasize that it's quick and easy because it sounds like it could be hard work.
That's a great diagnostic. Also, those words quick and easy. And so then when you're looking over your copy, you're looking at individual words and thinking, okay, when somebody reads this, does this communicate quick and easy? Is this consistent with the idea of quick and easy? And I love what you pulled out with the word review, because review could mean a lot of different things. And so it kind of has, when you're thinking in terms of time, has this indefinite quality. Like it could it could be a 5 minute review. It could be a 5 hour review. We don't know. Um, and so just thinking in those terms and really like looking at your language and asking, okay, does this really feel quick and easy? Could I substitute a word and make it seem more quick and easy? And then obviously you want the thing you're offering itself to actually be quick and easy, but
Yeah,
definitely representing that in the language.
you don't want to oversell it or missell it, but from what I've seen of what lies behind this, it is relatively quick and easy. And I think the value that Liz is adding is the categories that you're rating yourself on. Because in a moment, I could say, if I was to say to you, Ben, rate your digital productivity on a scale of 1 to 10, you could probably come up with a number. But what I think Liz is saying, or could potentially say, is that that's kind of meaningless until I tell you that the 8 areas that really matter. Just pulling a number out of your head is not useful. So I'm giving you a much more useful scale. It's a bit like being able to like instantly find your cholesterol level or something. It's like using this device. I'll give you a number that actually means something rather than some proxy for that, some broad guess that isn't really actionable. So I think that's the power of this, is that she has broken it down into those areas that when combined give you a true reflection of where you're at.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Um, all right. Did you have any other thoughts to share on this one?
I did, yeah. Let me actually, just in case Liz doesn't want us to show what's behind the scenes, I won't sort of log in. But what I was going to talk a little bit about what happens once you get there and how you can connect things up. Because
Mm-hmm.
one of the things I find kind of funny, or maybe possibly ironic, about lead magnets is it's, at least in the first instance, it's more important like how good the lead magnet sounds than how good it is. Now, I'm going to qualify that a little bit. Some people get very caught up on their lead magnet design, and that can be good if you're going to showcase what it looks like on the page. But the decision you want people to make is to give you their email address. And they will give you your email address before they've seen the lead magnet. That is, in fact, the entire mechanism, if you like.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it is, put it this way, it's more important to come up with a really good lead magnet idea and write good copy than it is to create the perfect execution of that lead magnet behind the scenes. That said, if you want to create a really good impression, once they've logged on, once they've done the thing that you want them to do, then there are some dots that I think you can join. And what I found with Liz's lead magnet was, when you get behind the scenes, you basically get this wheel. It has 8 categories that cover certain areas, and some of them uh, they weren't necessarily obvious. So there's a real value there in terms of how it's broken down, but you were left pretty much to your own devices about how to fill those sections out and what it meant to score this particular area on a scale of 1 to 10. It didn't really tell you what to do with all those numbers, whether it made sense to add them together, or if you were low in one area and high on another area, um, what should you do next? So I think it gave me a template, if you like, to assess my digital productivity, but it didn't help me fill it out. And it also didn't tell me what to do with those results. Now, it's possible that what Liz is thinking is that, well, great, if somebody falls low on a particular category, I want them to pay me to coach them up to a better level. But even within the course, there wasn't anything like that, kind of an upsell or call to action. It kind of said, "Here's the circle, kind of, and there you go. Just do what you need with it." So I would say, Liz, if you're listening, just do a little bit more hand holding behind the scenes. Help me to fill out that chart, and help me to know what to do with the results, and even interpret the results. I mean, maybe you could say, hey, you know what? Most people don't score more than 5 on this. So if you score 6, you're actually doing quite well. How do I interpret that? Otherwise, I think I might have been tempted by the promise of getting a really good picture of my productivity, but actually then doubt whether I'd filled out the circle correctly and then be unsure what to do with the results. So I would just do a little bit more hand holding, maybe record a really short video that that tells walks through an example, or has you filling it out for your own productivity, or shows, I mean, it could be more salesy. You could show, wouldn't it be awesome to show a wheel for somebody who's a client of yours, and you show the before and after wheel? This is, you know, this is how much they've improved, because it must be a great tool for measuring progress in the field that you're an expert in. So when I look at the contents here, you've got the productivity wheel. You basically got the same thing in two different formats, which is totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And then you talk a little bit about the Facebook group. There's not a lot of hand holding through the process. And there's
Mm-hmm.
one other thing that I will say, because I'm kind of obsessed with things lining up, is at the top here, we talk about the digital productivity wheel. And then when you get inside, it's now called the Digi Enable productivity wheel. Now, I don't know if that is a, you know, a registered term of yours and it links into other things that you do, but there was a disconnect for me. And in fact, if you look at this image behind the scenes, it is called the Digi Enable productivity wheel, and all in caps. And I actually thought initially that it was a typo, that it was supposed to say digital productivity, and actually it was a major typo there. So I would just look
Mm.
at that and why those things are called something different either side of the yeah the lead magnet process.
I like how you were describing assigning meaning to the results and walking people through that. It reminded me of the Myers Briggs test, and there's this website where you can go and you can answer some questions, and then it basically puts you on a spectrum on these four different measures, and and gives you the four letters, if you're familiar with the uh, Myers Myers Briggs personality
Is
test.
that the
And yeah,
INTP and I? Yeah,
yes, exactly, yeah. And regardless of what you think about how accurate that actually is, what was really neat about taking that test, and really satisfying, was getting to the end of it, getting your four letters, and then seeing a description next to the four letters of what that actually meant, and um, and reading it and thinking to yourself, yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. That resonates with me and who I am, and I feel like that kind of experience of I'm I'm going to use this tool. I'm going to honestly answer the questions and get an assessment. And the expectation then from there is when somebody shares the meaning, I feel like I really resonate, and that this person and the way that they describe, my productivity based on their measures, really understands where I am and what it's going to take to get me to where I want to be. And so I love that that encouragement for Liz to really handhold and give folks a little bit more context for the results.
yeah, and I love that idea of maybe taking it a step further and assigning labels to some of these things. And maybe Liz does that in her paid programs, and maybe doesn't want to give too much away, but you could do a very rough and ready version that says, look, if you're low on these two areas, then maybe you are I don't know, like you could even give them. I've seen systems where they give them like animal names. You know, you're a digital dormouse or something, and that means that you're, you know, timid on these things about protecting your boundaries. If you give them a simple way to identify their type and give them names, and then I think crucially just give them a little bit of a hint of, well, how do you improve in that area if you are a dormouse versus an owl versus a, you know, alligator or whatever. um, and that could even lead to her services and products. You could say, well, look, if you struggle with this, well, this program that I offer would be perfect for you. Do you want to have a chat about that? Or if you don't match any of these sort of stereotypes or archetypes, why not, have a few one-to-one sessions with me, and I can come up with a customized plan for you because you don't fit one of these more conventional, easier to diagnose and solve types. So it doesn't have to be giving away the farm to go the next stage. It could actually link very neatly onto something to sell.
Yeah, and it is, there's kind of, if you don't give folks enough, they don't really have a path from the values you've given them in this lead magnet to something more comprehensive that's paid. And so it's almost like you're building a little bit of a bridge for folks, um,
Yeah.
and
If,
and giving them, like a just a taste, not the whole thing, but a taste of something enough that it really is compelling. And it's like, yeah, I do want to learn more about what this really means, and how I can improve. So that's great stuff.
yeah, absolutely. You don't want people to have assessed themselves, and you're almost saying, "Oh, turns out you're terrible at digital productivity. That's a bit of a shame. Thanks for taking part," and not give them somewhere to go from that. And I guess if you join the Facebook group or the email updates, then you're going to start getting a hint of that. But I think it needs to be much more over, like, great, you've got your results now. Here's what to do next.
Hmm. All right. What other thoughts do you have on this lead magnet?
Let me have a look. Let's scroll down. I think that's most of what I had to say, to be honest. Ben, again, just to recap, I liked the alignment. Um, I think this is a great tool. I think we could just make more of it, really. You could, um, yeah, actually, there was one other thought, which was, and I know we've already covered the copy here, but Liz talks about the productivity wheel in terms of the wheel of life. Now, the wheel of life is something that has come up for me. I've heard people mention it. I think maybe a coach has taken me through it at one point, but it felt a little bit apologetic in the sense of, if you have to connect it to somebody else for us to understand what it is, then it's slightly, I wouldn't say it's a double-edged sword, but what if I land on this page and I don't know what the wheel of life is? It feels like that would be a distraction, and almost I wouldn't maybe be a good fit. Like, this is aimed at people who do know what the wheel of life is. So I wouldn't reference that. I would like to think it would stand on its own. And
Yeah.
it feels just like a little bit, not apologetic, but maybe Liz thinks, oh, I don't want people thinking I've just ripped off the wheel of life here. So I'm going to signpost it and say, I know that this other thing exists and maybe it's inspired by it. But I don't think it uses quite a lot of space in prime real estate on the above the fold stuff on your page. So I would lose that.
Yeah.
And here's the other thing. If you do have some kind of concrete image that we spoke about, even if it's slightly blurred and all those things that I mentioned, you don't really have to reference something else, because I can see basically what it is from your image.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So that you're not having to try to talk about some other product or experience to describe your own, but you can actually showcase it there. And you also mentioned, not, if somebody lands on that in the experience of like, oh, I'm not, if I'm not familiar with what the wheel of life is, then I might just disqualify myself from opting into your product because I'm like, oh, this isn't for me.
Yeah, exactly. If somebody said, "Oh, I'm offering this transformation," it's like the transformation that character goes through in that film. Well, if I haven't heard of that film, I'm not going to feel very included. I know that's a artificial example, but again, if you're referencing something, then it either needs something, it either needs to be something that is so fundamental to the crowd that you're trying to target that you can say to yourself, if they don't understand this, then they're not for me. That's fine. But if
Hmm.
there's a risk that they don't know what you're talking about, you risk unnecessarily alienating people. One last thing I thought we could look at is, I haven't really talked about this title, and I do like. I, I find digital productivity wheel intrinsically appealing, but it doesn't tick some of the stricter boxes just around making sure there's a clear benefit. It's a statement, it's a few nouns strung together. There's not a benefit promise there, or if there is, it's inferred, it's implied. So maybe it could just be, score yourself using the digital productivity wheel, or something where it's more action oriented. It's clearer what the benefit might be. The benefit is, oh, I've got a score. I don't have to guess now how productive I am. I'm going to get a score. So we could probably spend some time brainstorming ideas there. But I think there are some headlines that still include the phrase digital productivity wheel that are a little bit more enticing, a little bit more eye catching.
Yeah, and we see that often where the creator will make the title the thing, and not, and then, you know, in the very first sentence of the copy, they start talking about the benefits, and it's almost like those two things could be swapped. Um, it's like you're going to achieve these results or experience these benefits via this framework, and then talk about that in the copy.
Yeah, I think you can just name the thing if the benefit is so strongly implied. So the idea that's come into my mind, and this is not me, but anyway, imagine the old school of people trying to teach you dating techniques and things like that. If there was something that was just called the 6 second seduction sentence or something, you're naming the thing, but it's so obvious what the benefit is that you can just name the thing. There don't really need to be any more verbs in the sentence, if you see what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas this, it's more neutral. Okay. So it could, if there was a word like booster in there, like or boost your productivity with the digital productivity wheel, or the productivity booster wheel. I mean, these aren't, you'd need to work these, but you can see how there is a clear benefit, whereas at the moment it's a neutral thing.
Yeah, that's a great call out. Yeah, and that seems like it'd be the ideal, is to, if you do have a name for this specific thing, um, trying to find something that uh, says what it is while also describing the benefit.
Yes, if it was, I mean, you could have something like a health, again, a health assessment or something. Again, that's quite neutral. You want to know the benefit of finding out that score. Basically, I think this, because it's a nice idea, I think it works perfectly well. But we could just add a little bit more with a couple more
Mm-hmm.
words, and I think then it would we'd be happy.
All right. Any other thoughts on this one?
I don't think so. What if I do? No, I think I think we're good. I think we're good. Anything that you feel we could drill down into, or that you wanted to mention, Ben?
I don't think so. I think this is something that we have seen with many of these lead magnets. Is, you talk about the idea of quick and easy, and I think part of what reflects something being quick and easy is also that they're not necessarily, and I think you mentioned this with the very first one. You said Brett had a lot of text, and um, and it's almost as if, the the shorter you can make it for people, the fewer things you have for them to go through, because it's something they'd be getting for free, the better. And so that's kind of, I think about it in terms of what I think it was Stephen King. Now I'm afraid I'm going to misattribute the quote, but basically this idea that you write a rough draft, and then editing is getting rid of anything that is not the story. and and I feel that in this case it's the same way. Like, this is a lead magnet, it's got a specific purpose, and you might, as you're putting it together, you might include all of these things, but then just going back through and thinking critically about, like, okay, what does this really, like, do I really need this in order for someone to land on this page and decide to give me their email address, and just get rid of anything that doesn't need to be there.
Yeah, I think if at this level, if you have to sell it too hard, you don't have the right idea. It needs to be incredibly easy to grasp, easy to get, easy to use.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thank you so much for taking us through those and for all of the great insights. And, like, our first comment from Tom said, fantastic, clear, useful, memorable. I mean, there were so many gold nuggets in your reviews. So this is one that I want to go back through. I found myself wishing I had a notepad and I could, like, take notes while you were talking about this stuff. So really great stuff. Thank you, Glenn.
No, thank you, Ben, and thank you for everybody who commented, and then for the people who put their lead magnets forward, because it takes some courage to put your lead magnet in the spotlight. So thank you. So, and they all had great things about them. So we're just trying to make them a little better.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, I'm going to say a few quick things real quick. So, uh, if you have created a lead magnet with Podia, it could be worth $2,000. And we're currently running our July Creator Fellowship, where you can enter to win $2,000 of no strings attached cash simply by sharing your lead magnet with us. You can go to podia.com/creator-fellowship. That's this website right here, and just click the Apply Now button and share a lead magnet with us that you've created in Podia. Now, what if you don't already have one? Well, we put together an easy to follow guide that can help you create a lead magnet in 30 minutes. And you can watch this video here, or you can scroll through and you can read. This is just a fantastic guide with some examples that you can check out. So yeah, make that lead magnet and then share it with us, and you might be able to win. You can go to, again, podia.com/creator-fellowship before midnight, July 19th, for a chance to win. All right. And I'll just say again, Glenn, thank you so much. If folks want to connect with you online, what's the best place for them to go?
If you just go to my my main site, which is www.glenlong.com, just one N in Glen, GLENLONG.com. There's there's various articles. There's an opportunity to get a free bite-sized course as well. So, in fact, in the guide that Ben just mentioned around the lead magnets, my lead magnet is very kindly called out as an option around how you can provide a course as a lead magnet. So that would be another way of connecting with me through that. So thank you.
Very cool. Yep. Robert Rodriguez said, awesome chat. Thanks, Ben and Glenn. Robert and everybody else who tuned in, thank you so much for being here. And Glenn, once again, thank you. And we will see you in the next review.
Absolutely. Been a blast.